It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Laugh.
We had a little fun, because it's a very long day, you know.
And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
All right, let's go already.
And John Nash.
Pucker up, Buttercup.
With a focus on career, the consumer culture, and marketing from an LGBT point of view. We're all business, except when we're not.
Welcome to the Focus Group. I'm John Nash, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. And we are wearing, did we coordinate today?
No, but I've seen that shirt before. I thought you might change it up a little bit. You like that shirt.
No, this shirt works on camera. This is a camera-friendly shirt.
I like it a little darker.
You like it a little darker? Look, I'm just going to start wearing navy blue. That's
every day?
Navy blue when I'm on the show. Call it a day.
Well, I was wondering if we should get Focus Group uniforms so we would have polo shirts that have our logo on them, and that's all you wear.
And you have like John.
Do people? Don't sports shows do that? The sports,
they do.
Sports
a lot
guys
of
all wear the
ESPN
same.
shirts do that. Yeah, the shows do that. When
Should
they're
we do
on
that? Should we get
football,
a branded shirt?
It would make life very easy. You just show up in the uniform.
Like Steve Jobs.
Yeah. Well, his life, black turtleneck, Brooks.
It's funny you should mention that. I just bought a turtleneck, and I'm thinking that might be my look for the winter shows. I'll go into turtleneck if we're all living.
I would like to see that look, actually. I would like that to be a new look for you.
I could do turtlenecks, and that's why you'll know it's a winter show.
I can do turtlenecks. I'll be the judge of that.
You didn't have there was a teacher we had, and I think his name was Mr. Housen, but I could be wrong. Southbury.
And you were pre-high school.
Right.
Okay.
And he was a 7th grade English teacher and wore the same exact thing, seasonal.
Like a Steve Jobs.
But he only changed for the season. So he would have the tweed jacket
For winter.
and it was a kind of a brown with a blue check.
He had
a blue shirt and tie. And then when spring would come, it was a seersucker. I mean, he was very much
So you could see the closet had like winter, spring, summer, fall, right?
But I used to laugh about it. But then you've always mentioned Steve Jobs. It's a very simple thing to just get up and say, I'm wearing a black turtleneck and a pair of jeans.
There's nothing to think about. There's no time wasted. If you're packing for a trip, I'll pack. So, you could be the turtleneck king. Like your favorite movie, Ferris Bueller. Who was the sausage king of Chicago?
Al Froman.
Al Froman. So you could be like
king of Chicago.
You could be the turtleneck king of Philadelphia.
Well, I had named
there comes that Tim in his sharp-looking turtleneck.
Well, she popped up again. Do you remember the woman Faith Popcorn?
Yeah.
She was a big, she was way before ahead of her time, futurist. And I always thought a lot of what she said was nonsense. So when I was at Subaru and she was going to come.
You told her.
Well, she was going to come speak at Subaru, and I said, you could just pay me. I'm Tim Snowcone. And instead of Faith Popcorn, I was going to be Tim Snowcone, and I was going to give all the future.
What would you have said the future was back then?
Back then?
Yeah, if this was let's say it was 1998 or 97, right?
What's the future? I don't know. I couldn't even imagine.
Would you have imagined iPhone, apps, selfies, YouTube, the whole...
No, because I was you were, and that's why I always get mad at you for not inventing Facebook or anything. You were way ahead of your time with computers. You and Marianne, both. Yeah. You were very early adopters of that technology. Part of it was you had your own business, so it was necessary. But I shunned all that computer stuff. And I was one of the last people I know to get a computer at home. You actually had given me one as a housewarming gift.
Which was a gut-wrencher because you were Windows at work and you were...
Oh, it was tough to learn. But then I, learned to, of course, adapt and like it, as my mom and dad are now with their iPads.
Yeah, my mom uses her iPad all the time. She has an iMac that I gave her for her photography. But my niece one day said, she goes, Nana, we can browse the web on your computer upstairs. No. That's for pictures. So in her world, the iMac is for pictures, the iPad's for, and my niece just smiles at me, and that's the way it works.
Our friends in Mahoney's call it the machine. I don't know if it's they got it from somebody, but let's check the machine.
La Machina.
Check the machine, and I always laugh. So Richard does that now all the time. Check the machine and see what time Lowe's is open, or check the machine. That's said on the machine.
So we are now officially into the second week of our favorite month of the year. I think
it's beautiful.
October ranks up there usually too.
Yeah, but you can't beat September weather anywhere in the country unless you're in the Caribbean.
This was the time of year that last year were we heading out to Seattle around this time for the all-track road trip?
You're right. It was the 12th-ish. Yeah, you're right.
Gorgeous weather out west when we.
It's cold though in Seattle.
And it was cold in some of the states we traveled through, but that was such a wonderful trip. And
It's a year ago already.
it's a year ago, and I still remember the pre-trip discussion of going to Devil's Tower National Monument. We're not going there. Right? We're not. And then
It was out of the way.
and that ended up being one of your more favorite locations.
Yeah, I could have done without walking around it, but
It was only a mile. You just did a mile, right?
it's one of those things. It's like going to look at the Grand Canyon. Okay, great. Shake your head and you move on.
You've been to the Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah, I went in the water.
You did
Rafting.
the rafting thing. That's right. That's
The
right.
guy from the Smithsonian. It was, billed to be like Disney World, and it was not even close.
All right, so today the show is just me and Tim, so you're stuck with us for the next hour. But we're going to be doing the random sample, which is we each pick headlines, LGBT headlines from around the world, but really it's around the country. Although
I picked a global. I picked one from the BBC.
actually I should. I'm not. You and I both did global because I did one from India.
A global one.
Yeah.
Okay. India.
And then later in the show, we're going to talk about this Equifax hack, which you're all hearing about on the news. And I'll just put it to you this way. We have some actionable information that you're probably hearing from other sources as well. I think it's a disgusting breach of security and privacy. And I say that because all of us are beholden to these 3 credit reporting agencies for our FICO scores. They often hold the keys to whether or not you get a good mortgage rate or a car. And for them to be the people that then get hacked, and we'll talk about it later, but their response from a public relations point of view was the worst I've seen. It's your textbook how not to do it, right?
Yeah. Now, I never understand how because you had said, we were talking at lunch, they sat on it for a month. So who knows what happened? But that's a lot of these companies. I don't know how. I was joking because it took me, I had hit in the wrong password to try to get Amtrak tickets. I got a couple problems with Amtrak, by the way.
Wait, the finger went up. It's teaching time. It's teaching. I got a couple problems.
I didn't realize this now, but they've changed their policy. So I missed a train. I went to turn the ticket in. They said, no, if the train's already gone, you can't turn your ticket in. I said I wasn't on the train. You can tell I wasn't on the train. It didn't scan. So I've called, and I'm not letting it go. I'm kind of a dog with a bone with this, that I can't believe they're not going to refund.
Wasn't the policy that if you didn't, it's just like a movable cash. So
not anymore.
You didn't make that train, but you'll use it for.
As of August 2016, they've decided that if you miss the train and you haven't canceled 48 hours before,
48?
you forfeit it all.
48?
48 hours before.
What about changing before?
48 hours before you get full, 24 hours before you only get half.
For cancellation. But if you.
For moving it.
To a new time?
Right. It used to be, because how many times were we running late at Penn Station and I missed the train by 3 minutes or 2 minutes? You go up and they just put you on the next train. Yep. Usually pretty nice about it. Not anymore. So I went to go get tickets in advance because once again, for us on the Northeast, and I'll say this as being a snob, we're the ones who control Amtrak and run it. It's the only routes that make money is the Northeast.
Well, they're the most densely populated routes.
You and I could go from Harrisburg to Chicago for $14, but I can't go from Philadelphia to New York with under 100. Yeah. So they gouge you, but if you buy far enough in advance, you can get a less expensive ticket. Anyway, I went on, and I hit the password in wrong twice, and that locked me out.
Yep.
And I was laughing because we're talking about, meanwhile, I can go to Target or Victoria's Secret or use, hi, I'm John Nash. My Social Security says, oh, we'd love to give you a credit card. How many panties and bras you want? I mean, it's but I can't get an Amtrak ticket because I messed up my password.
I'm still stuck on, hi, I'm John Nash. Here's my number. How many bras and panties do you want?
Victoria's Secret's famous.
Couldn't you just at least said Lego kits or? But I got bras and panties.
Hey, we've got our good friend Don in Alabama that's on the line. I don't like what I see. Is that what I'm? Hello, Don.
Hi, guys.
What's going on?
I was calling to talk to John about the death of the Cassini space probe, but then you brought up Equifax, and that's one of my bitch fest moments of the week.
Oh, Don. Okay, so Don is going to talk about what we call the grand finale, and
yes.
The NASA engineers and astronauts figured out about 10 years ago that if they kept the Cassini orbiter in the Saturn system, they could deorbit it into the planet and get some valuable data. But it was fascinating because, Don, I think they did this because they didn't want anybody to ever encounter the probe, and they didn't want microbes from the probe to ever infect one of the moons that could possibly support life someday. Is that right?
Correct. There are at least 2 highly probable moons that might support life, so they don't want Cassini to potentially contaminate that. So it's going to do its long kiss goodbye on Friday.
That's
It'll
the
do its
final, yeah.
final
'Cause
swing.
I think the moon, is it Titan, is
Yes.
changed its orbit, and it's now beginning to slowly get closer and closer until the atmosphere of Saturn sucks it in. And I think it's only going to be a matter of like 7 to 10 minutes when it hits the top, where it literally just.
Is that Oleg Cassini,
Hey,
designer?
But now about Equifax.
No, wait, I want to ask about
Okay, go
Cassini
ahead.
for a second. So, Don, you're saying moons. So this isn't one of these planets that's 1,000 light years away that we could never get to. So is this
No.
a moon that's local?
Saturn.
This is a moon around Saturn that could be reached, within, conventional launch systems within a year or so.
And then what would we do when we get there?
Well, the belief is that Titan has enough geothermal energy generated below its surface that it might have microbial or very simple life forms existing in it.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
what it does is validate the fact that Earth is not the only planet in the universe that has life, which then begins to rewrite the exploration for other life in the universe.
Yeah, that would be good to know.
Well, I don't think the brain capacity can handle that. We haven't settled on global warming in this country yet, let alone that there's life out there.
Yeah, the nice thing about global warming is the planet really doesn't give a rip what we think.
That is true. What did Al Gore used to say? The planet's going to be fine. Humanity, another
yeah.
story entirely. So, Don, Equifax has me really, really. I got angrier and angrier as the days went by, as the information came out, and it's really perplexing to me how this could have happened.
Well, you're gonna love this because I've already been hit. I've already had 2 credit cards compromised that I've had to shut down, and I had to call all 3 of the mafiosos that control that, and I had to put what's called a credit freeze on. The fee for locking my credit is $10 to $15 per credit bureau. So they are charging me for me to tell them, do not allow any additional credit to be established in my name and Social Security number, regardless of source.
Wow, I knew that, and I think Equifax is waiving the fee.
1 year.
They not just the identity theft thing, but the credit freeze thing. I think they're waiving the fee because it's there, but you still have to pay to have exactly what Don said. But Don, the problem that I see is that your Social Security number is still out there, and that along with all the other pertinent information can still do a lot of damage, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, how hard is it to, not necessarily in the United States, but how hard is it to say to go to some other less resilient country and then just establish yourself as, Tim Bennett and start running up charges based on his identity?
Yeah.
Not that hard to do.
Yeah, and I've said this before about the 3 big credit reporting agencies. If you've ever pulled a report on yourself, we were refinancing a mortgage years ago, and we pulled a report on my partner, and there were 2 judgments against him from a court issue thing, and it wasn't even his name. The credit bureau just let them be attached to his credit report. It wasn't even his name. I mean, and I thought, how irresponsible is that? So now you have this breach going on, and they claim this could have been avoided if Equifax had spent more money on security hardware and software systems.
Yeah, they were warned 7 years ago by an federal government IT security expert that they were extremely vulnerable to this, and they failed to take specific steps to protect this particular. This information wasn't even properly encrypted.
Wow.
So much less available. It wasn't even encrypted in a way that would have made it at least a reasonable challenge to access.
Yeah, that's no.
Hire the Russians.
Kaspersky, is that the firm that does it?
Yeah.
All right, Don, we're going to talk about this later in the show as well. I want to thank you for calling, and we want to thank all the engineers at NASA and the Cassini probe for what I think is one of the coolest missions they've flown in years. We've had years of fantastic data from this. If you're a space nut, you'll also appreciate what I picked for our deep discount thing. Thank you, Don.
Thanks.
All right, so what caught your eye?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
I thought for sure this would have caught your eye, John. Maybe it did. This was from Mashable, but it's apparently Denny's. You know, Denny's is known for the famous Grand Slam
breakfast.
And it's a roadside restaurant. And a lot of people used to always make the joke because you'd always find a La Quinta next to Denny's. That was always the joke. What's La Quinta mean in English? Next to Denny's. So
I had not heard.
You never heard that?
No, but Denny's Grand Slam breakfast was a college favorite.
Oh yeah.
That was the recovery breakfast from the dorm party.
So apparently they've come out with a new logo, or at least social media has jumped on this, and it says the headline was Denny's craptastic new mascot has inspired some pretty good poop jokes, and they said people have been dumping on the mascot, and a lot of people were just saying that they can't believe that this mascot was done. So if you're watching on our Facebook page live or YouTube, you'll see there's a picture of Denny's. And then the next page is what the breakfast is, and it's everybody loves the Grand Slam breakfast.
Look at that big jug of
I haven't been
maple
there in a long
syrup.
time, have you?
I haven't been into a Denny's in a long time.
Then here's what the little logo mascot was that they did. It's a sausage, but it looks like a piece of poop. So it reminded me of the South Park Mr.
Howdy-ho,
Hanky's
Mr.
Christmas
Hanky.
poo.
and his
It looks
Christmas
just like
poo.
the Christmas
Mr.
poo.
Hanky, the Christmas poo.
So everybody's wound up about this and said, who ever thought this was a great idea for a mascot? Now, can you imagine, John, you drawing this, and the guy's got a little hat on, some gloves, he's a little bit of a dandy, and he's supposed to be a sausage link. And this has gone viral all over the place. And even Derek and Romaine's show was talking about it last night. Somebody had posted. And
I love somebody put actual dirt on their menu.
right. So they said somebody has contacted, Denny's has been contacted, but they've yet to give a response as to what they did with this mascot. And what's so funny about it is I can't imagine that this would have been overlooked. But then I think, listen, we've all worked places where stupid things happen. I mean, how about My Box? Remember, My Box is white, My Box is clean, My Box is fresh.
My box will make you money.
The My Box at Salad Works, or
and everybody in that room sat and stared straight ahead when it was a woman talking about
her box,
about her
her
box,
white clean box.
her white clean box.
So we just thought that was fine. And then
So that sausage logo, the mascot,
yeah,
he doesn't even look happy. He looks dazed and confused.
does he look scared? Yeah, like he's going to go in the fire.
Or he's going to get put on the grill. Or could he? I'm just stretching this here, but there was an animated movie last summer called Sausage Party.
And they said that this also has a similarity to that, along with some other characters.
There was a
Denny's
hot dog
developed.
character that was like that.
So they're wondering if they were being smart here, and Denny's is taking advantage of Sausage Party, knowing a lot of college kids go there, and So, but anyway, that was their craziness there. So then they said that, of course, Denny's is not the first brand mascot to get roasted online for incidental toilet humor. And they had a bunch of others, but I picked 4 of them. The first one is Mr. Dingle, and it was from the California Victor Valley Wastewater Reclamation Authority that treats wastewater. And they actually thought that having a piece of poop as the official mascot would be a great way to salute the organic matter and explain. We got a picture of it, yeah, and explain how the
Mr. Dingle.
Mr. Dingle. So there's Mr. Dingle. That was the opening of the water treatment plant. And it's a piece of poop with a hat on, hard hat. He's there with the workers.
There are a bunch of offices in California where that picture sits on people's desks.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, like,
You should see there were
remember the day, Mr. Dingle up in the water.
There
Okay.
were hundreds. He was so popular, he even has his own fan page.
Mr. Dingle. Okay.
The other one is Airbnb, which I didn't realize.
I didn't know they had their own.
So Airbnb had an issue. Gizmodo picked on the Airbnb logo, saying it looked like either a vagina, a derriere, or a pair of testicles, depending upon how you saw it. The company countered that their image was simply a belo, which is a universal symbol for belonging. But then people have gone crazy. So we all know the Airbnb logo, and then people went crazy. And I pulled a couple of drawings that people have done for Airbnb. But if you Google Airbnb logo, there were 15 pages of this sort of stuff. Some of them were laugh out loud.
So Tim, that bad logo.
Bad logo.
Bad logo, yeah.
The other one is the Trump-Pence logo for the campaign this year. You remember that one where the T was penetrating the P. So they fixed that one. And then my favorite is the state of Vermont. So the state of Vermont, many of you know how the shape of the state of Vermont is. So someone at the Vermont syrup industry decided they were going to take the state of Vermont and they were going to tap it to show that they made maple syrup. But the tap on the state into the barrel looks like a guy's taking a pee. And I thought this was a joke. I looked, it's all over the place. This sign is everywhere, all over. And on Google in New Hampshire's. But doesn't that, or I'm sorry, Vermont. But doesn't that look like that's the state of Vermont, and they've tapped it knowing that maple syrup comes from Vermont?
Okay, I'm just going to say that was a graphic design student project. It clearly did not go through a firm where a creative director such as myself or a client such as Tim would have said, by the way, have you thought about this?
Well, it does remind me when I was at Subaru, I used to get tired of the craziness, and there certainly was a cultural disconnect sometimes of what words meant. And I was not having a particularly good day, and I remember I was asked if I thought that a certified salesperson program called the Ferry Star program would be good for the salespeople.
Ferry or
Fairy, because ferries bring good things. And so if you were a Ferry Star, if you were certified, you were going to be certified Ferry Star. And I said, I think it's great. And then after they talked around a little more, found out that maybe I wasn't the one to go to say that we should launch a new program.
Because you were being snarky.
Mm-hmm. I said, Ferry Star. I said, that's fine. That's great. Imagine if you were a salesperson in Des Moines. I'm a certified Ferry Star at Subaru.
You sell 10 more cars, you're going to be a Ferry Star.
There was a little wand, like, Tinkerbell with the star. Ding! Subaru Ferry Star, certified salesperson.
Folks, I say this every week. We're on the air. I say it every day. I talk to Tim. We cannot make this
Can't make it up.
If I was paid to make it up, I couldn't make it up.
Ferry
I could not have come up with that Vermont poster if you paid me.
No.
But they did pay some.
Because you were smart enough to look at it. But you often wonder whether these are inside jokes or not. So what caught your eye?
Well, mine is also unfortunately humorous. It revolves around the tragedy of the Hurricane Irma. But it has to do with something that has always caught my eye, and Bob's eye for that matter, and that is when we watch public speaking things or like people doing speeches or warnings, there's always someone doing American Sign Language off to the left or the right. And we're making fun, and that's terrible.
No, happy
birthday. Do you know that?
Yeah.
You might.
Happy birthday.
You hope you're right? So,
son.
Manatee County was issuing a warning to its residents down south that people that were in Zone A needed to evacuate, and they tapped a man who's a lifeguard in Manatee whose brother happens to be deaf, so he knew a little bit of sign language. It turns out that 95% of what he signed was radically incorrect. So his name is Jason and so a guy named Jason Herdich from Clemson University, who's one of the top interpreters of American Sign Language in the country, he's deaf himself, was stunned when he saw the video, and he actually then worked with people to annotate what the interpreter was actually saying while the thing was going on. Now, John, I embedded an MP4. There it is. There he is. And I think it will,
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public Safety Center
Morning,
as
almost.
the Emergency Operations Center. Today, we have been given the news that Hurricane Irma's track has shifted towards Manatee County, which increases our vulnerability to rain, storm surge, and heavy winds.
Reduce me.
Based on that news, we have issued a mandatory evacuation for the Level A
test
evacuation zones. Those are generally on our bodies of water, on the Gulf of Mexico, the islands.
Now, John, if you just skip
So wait a minute, does he know what he's doing? No, obviously not. But why did they hire him?
He was his brother. He's a lifeguard. His brother's deaf. So anywhere you go, you're going to find crazy.
Check your radio.
That's ZTV
crazy.
Sure, when you evacuate, you take with you identification. If you have a passport, your
ID.
driver's license, your medications,
Pass-through.
take them with you. Take your
medicine.
If you have your pets
Want
on a
you
leash.
want
If you have crates, take the crate.
dog, cat.
Put their food, their medicine,
Oh,
any of their
my
lovey toys
God.
they have.
Okay, so
and
That's horrible.
Your children, make sure.
So Manatee County spokesman Nick Azara told a Herald reporter that the interpreter, a Manatee County lifeguard, has a brother who is deaf and was asked to sign during the update rather than have no one signing at all.
Oh, okay. So
with
gibberish is better than nothing.
But with 95% of the information being utterly irrelevant or useless, I'm not so sure. In a transcription of the signing provided by Herdich, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, Jason Herdich from Clemson University, who is a big American Sign Language guy, he said, Herdich, the interpreter said things like, help you at that time to use bear big. A video that provided subtitles of the interpretation has been viewed more than 22,000 times. Now, 26,000 times, whatever. He said there's a big difference between grammar and usage in ASL and in English, and he said that apparently American Sign Language depends heavily on facial. That's why, so it explains when you're watching them, they're making a lot of faces, exactly, because the face and the sign go together to form the word.
So here's what I never understood about that, because I always see these things, and when you go to particularly LGBT events, there's always some sign language person in the corner.
Yep.
It was like Subaru having a phone operator that spoke Spanish. They were lonelier than the Maytag.
I wonder what all-wheel drive, like
lonelier than the Maytag
drive.
repairman, right? Yeah. It's like, who's calling up? Me Outback, no, he's not broken. So, but I wonder why they just don't run along the bottom the words, because as a deaf person, I have a cousin who's deaf.
They could probably read
But they could read. And so why not just have what the person is saying at the podium read, rather than trying to focus a camera on somebody who obviously doesn't know what they're doing? This happened to Obama when he was overseas in South.
We talked about it in the article.
Was it South Africa or wherever?
The Nelson Mandela funeral.
Right, and there was
the guy was basically
guy there just going like he was running an orchestra.
He might as well have been fan dancing, frankly. If they gave him fans, he could have been doing fan dancing.
So why do they bother doing that?
There must be a reason, and I should look into this, because it may be that it's faster for people who understand sign language to get that feedback as opposed to reading the line of type going across the bottom of the screen. I don't know. I'll look into that. But when this came across my tablet, I was like, Bob and I have always wondered about this. What are they really? Because not to be bad, but you can imagine the sign guy, if it's a politician, and the guy's going, we're going to lower taxes, and he goes like, we're going to raise. Like, you can imagine him saying the complete opposite.
Nobody will know.
Nobody, except if you knew American Sign Language. And so then they posted the video on Facebook. It went viral. People were super nasty, as normally happens. And finally someone said, the guy's a lifeguard, his brother's deaf. They picked him up and said, do this. He did the best he could. Even though
not even close.
5% right would be you're fired, right?
Dog, cat.
But go save someone in the way.
Make sure your pets are safe. Dog, cat. He was adding a little bit beyond what they were saying. Make sure your pets are safe. Dog, cat.
What about turtle? Yeah. What about hamster? so
well, there you go.
So we both had, I loved, yours is great. That's a good one. And I did not see that. I'm surprised I did not see
I'm
the
surprised
Denny's
you didn't see it either. So we've got our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So something we haven't done in a long time.
Ooh.
Do you know what today is, John?
Outside of being September 13th.
Today is U.S. National Chocolate Day.
Really?
We used to do a Watermelon Day.
Every day is a food day. There
was always
apple pie day, cherry pie day. Yeah.
So today is U.S. National Chocolate Day.
Guys in the booth, you like chocolate day, don't you? Because you know what you're getting later.
And I never saw this before, but I saw this little bag, and it's a special dark mixture, and you love dark chocolate.
It's better for you.
So I picked this up for you. In honor of your finishing your class, plus it's International Chocolate Day. You finished your course and your animation.
I'm now a character
animator. It's U.S. National Chocolate Day.
Well, thank you.
And the reason is because it's the birthday of Milton Snavely Hershey.
Hershey.
Right. So
you and I have talked about Hershey a lot. Not always.
So Milton Hershey was born on this day, September 13th, in 1857. He was an American confectioner and philanthropist. He founded the Hershey Chocolate Company in the company town in Hershey, Pennsylvania. There's like 5 pages of stuff here, but essentially what happened is he grew up Pennsylvania Dutch in the center in the Lancaster County area of Pennsylvania. He only had up to a 4th grade education. And his mother decided he should be a printer. So she sent him off to go be an apprentice at a printer. It didn't work out well, so she sent him to New York to learn how to make candies at a confectioner's.
Wait. The mother went from wanting her son to be a commercial printer.
Didn't work out. Didn't like it. He said it was boring.
Candy.
Candy.
Like, could you imagine a different parent might have said cobbler? And if that didn't work out, then you're going to be a tailor.
Well, candies were luxuries. It says his mother arranged for the 14-year-old Hershey to apprentice with a confectioner named Joseph Rohrer. in Lancaster, and over the next 4 years, he learned the craft of confections. He moved to Philadelphia, and then he moved to Denver. He moved to New Orleans, Chicago, and New York City, and learned how to make caramels, or caramels.
Caramel! Fireball, caramel.
So he returned to Lancaster County, and he borrowed money from the bank and opened up the Lancaster Caramel Company. And some English investor thought it was a great idea, and he was able to pay back all his loans based upon the orders that went to England. And he went to the Chicago World's Fair, which everything's happened at the Chicago World's Fair.
Ferris wheel, chocolate.
So he went there and he found this luxury of chocolate and decided he was going to go back to Hershey because there was plenty of milk because of all the farms around Pennsylvania. He discovered he became interested in chocolate there, which was a luxury.
Chocolate.
And he decided he was going to come back and make it available to the masses. And because it was a great source of milk
Dairy farming.
for dairy, he was going to do milk chocolate sold for $1 million in 1900. $1 million, the Caramel Company.
You know,
and opened up Hershey Chocolates.
What year? 1900.
1900.
So $1 million.
Can you imagine?
That you're talking. That number today
100
would be
million, right? Or
billion.
who knows?
Would be a couple $billion.
So the first Hershey bar was produced in 1900. The Kisses were developed in 07, and the bar with almonds, Hershey bar with almonds, in 08.
Those are the real classics. Those
are the three classics, and you'll see there's other pictures of all the candies that they make, including Twizzlers.
I love the way Tim threw that in because Tim loves Twizzlers.
I do. He had a lot of philanthropy, which I'm really not going to get into, but he was very good and very generous, he and his wife, with philanthropy and starting schools and giving monies to hospitals and education.
That's all the.
And those are currently what the Hershey's brand.
Did they originate all that? Did they invent like? Did they acquire?
They may have acquired
Mr.
some.
Good Bar was a Hershey product.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Fifth Avenue Bar is classic in the payday. Oh my God, what's it?
That Zero I don't like. That's that white chocolate thing.
You know, there is no such thing as white chocolate's kind of a fake
That's
thing.
not chocolate.
Like, yeah.
The
Heath Bar.
he had a close call on the Titanic, which I thought you'd be interested in. He was supposed to go on the Titanic.
Sail for New York.
He had a business meeting and ended up not going and took the German luxury liner SS America instead. And they have the copy of his check that was returned to him from the White Star Line with his payment for the trip.
Wow. That's a good piece of trivia.
First class is located in the Hershey Story Museum. The other thing I thought was interesting, during World War II, he supplied the U.S. Armed Forces with chocolate bars.
This is classic. Always in their little kit.
So the bars were called Ration D bars, and he also did a tropical chocolate bar. The Ration D bar had a very specific requirement from the Army. It had to weigh 1 or 2 ounces, it had to resist melting at temperatures higher than 90 degrees, and have an unpleasant enough flavor that people wouldn't crave them. So they wanted to be okay, but not great.
Wait. Okay, but not great.
Right. So they
have to resist 90
melting, right?
90
above
degrees.
90 degrees. And so then they said when the success of that, then they made the tropical bars, which were made to taste a little bit better than the Ration D bar. They said the tropical bars were designed not to melt in tropical weather. Between 1940 and 1945, they produced 3 billion Ration D and chocolate bars for the military.
I always thought that the Ration D was a straight old-fashioned Hershey bar. But I guess it's a little different, right?
Yeah. And they said by the end of World War II, the entire Hershey plant was producing 24 million bars a week. And he had such a advanced assembly line that they were also helping to fix and create parts for tanks as well.
Have you been to Hershey, PA?
Not in a long time. I was.
And is it like, didn't he create a town?
Yeah, company
all
town.
the workers.
Everything's there. There's Hershey.
There's the museum
Museum,
park now.
there's amusement park, yeah. There's a school there. It's been in the news a lot in the Philadelphia area. There's some allegations of child abuse. It's a school for underprivileged kids or orphans that he started, but obviously it was done in the early 1900s. But right now there's some allegations of child abuse and also pray the gay away sort of things that people have been encountered too. But that was a birthday.
Well, thank you.
Hershey.
And thank you. And yes, Tim alluded to the fact that this animation school ended yesterday officially, was my last Q&A.
Did you get a grade yet? How's that work?
I haven't got my final grade, but I was like a B student for this term, which is okay, believe me. It's a hard art form, and I really had it's been an interesting 2 years. I really loved it. And I would highly recommend that if anybody was thinking of continuing education, for me, this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, was to learn how to actually animate. And it goes all the way back to you talking about me and the computer. we created a cartoon called Franny B, and Tim is the voice of Franny.
1996.
Yeah, it's in the mid 90s. We actually executed it in the early 2000s. We hired a studio to animate it for us, and I said to Tim one day on the phone, and you always laugh about this. Tim, I'm going to go buy software. I'll learn how to. I can animate the character in 7 days.
Yeah, I got to pop out
We're going to be up and running.
cartoon a week.
Yeah, we're going to be doing like Looney Tunes, right? And so that was my idea of computer animation. What I have now learned after 2 years, and this school I went to is called Animation Mentor. It's distance learning. You're paired with a industry veteran. My last mentor, Greg, was a 20-year animator at DreamWorks, still there. I worked on Kung Fu Panda, all the great movies. What you learn is it's an art form that takes a long time to not just develop the story, but to actually animate and make and breathe life into these characters.
You have to be an actor.
And you have
A little
to be an
bit,
actor.
right?
No, you're 100% right. And it's different from what you and I do when we're on the set. You know, when we're doing our show, it's a different kind of thing. So it's been a really great experience, but what a great little reward, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of movies, you know that we here on the Focus Group are a big partner with Deep Discount. We love them. I'm getting packages all the time now. Actually, Bob just got a new movie, Pretty Young Things or something?
Young Things?
It goes back to the 90s. It was one of those like party movies. I saw the cover. I was like, oh, I recognize that. Anyway, Deep Discount, partner of ours, focusgroupradio.com is where you could find all the information about our show. But if you go to our site, click on the Deep Discount logo and go on through to their site. We get credit for you shopping through us. And thank you in advance for sending us pictures of what you buy on Deep Discount. There's a whole show we could do just about the titles that people buy because they're very fascinating.
Yep.
This month, Criterion is running a collection. Their Criterion collection is running a sale. They're all on sale at Deep Discount, and we love the Criterion collection because Criterion does a really great job of identifying movies that they want to have given the Criterion touch. They often remaster. They do director interviews, actor interviews, behind-the-scenes stuff. Sometimes they include the trailers for the movie. So all September, visit Deep Discount and check out the Criterion collection. Last week, we recommended Mildred Pierce, Valley of the Dolls, and I forget the third one we recommended.
I don't remember.
I'll remember in a second. This month, I chose two, and then Tim chose a very good one actually. When you sent
I
the
didn't
note,
think you watched it.
When you sent the note through, I was kind of surprised. You have an interesting taste. So this movie is especially for down in Alabama, and it's for me. I own this already, and it's a documentary called For All Mankind. It came out many years ago in the theaters. I saw it in a movie theater with Bob. I loved it.
How many theaters did it play in?
Art houses, Tim.
So two.
Art houses.
One in L.A. and one in Manhattan.
Documentarian Al Reinhardt was given access to the NASA vault, and he put together a mission from Earth to the Moon and back using multiple Apollo footage. But it feels seamless, so you'll have Armstrong stepping on the moon. But he mixed the Apollo missions together to get the right mix of footage to take you from launch at Cape Canaveral to the moon and back at splashdown. And the soundtrack is fantastic. It's a beautiful movie, and it really, I got to tell you, that our country was capable of doing this and that we were all behind it at that point in time is remarkable to me. I don't know if we could do it today. I really don't.
Well, I don't think we're all behind it.
That's one of the big problems. The Criterion version is fantastic. It has a lot of behind the scenes. It's a new master, especially the Blu-ray. If you have a Blu-ray player, definitely get this title on Blu-ray. You'll be amazed at the clarity of the footage that NASA actually had, and this is all the original negatives they used from the vault. So that was one of my recommendations.
So it's not like watching the Yule log where it's just going to be like it's going through the space.
No. They have back and forth footage with the all the back and forth chatter with Houston and Mission Control, but you definitely feel this very like they were in a tin can.
Yeah,
it's like being in a camp.
When you see what they went up in, I wouldn't take it.
Going around the moon. It's like
I wouldn't fly around town in it.
My other pick, because I love this movie, the other one I picked is called Here Comes Mr. Jordan. It stars Claude Rains, who I really, really love as an actor, and Robert Montgomery, who's a great actor as well. If this seems oddly familiar to you, it's because Warren Beatty remade this movie, and it's called Heaven Can Wait, the new version.
Oh, you love that movie.
But Here Comes Mr. Jordan was the original version about a boxer, Robert Montgomery, who gets pulled out of his body too soon. In the Warren Beatty version, it's a football player that's on his way to the Super Bowl. Highly recommend it. It looks beautiful on the Blu-ray, and it's a beautifully restored print, and it's, of course, a Criterion. So what did you pick?
So I picked the movie, which I actually did see in the theater as well. It was originally released in 1993. It's a Robert Altman film called Shortcuts. And, of course, Robert Altman's never shied away from casting every actor known to man into into his films, and it's true with Shortcuts. I counted. I think there's 22 well-known stars that are in the movie. And the plot is there's about 2 degrees of separation from everybody, and it's about human relationships. Some of it funny, some of it sad. All the relationships seem to be completely unhealthy. But it's just I love these sort of movies where lives intersect. And this is one of those. And I remember watching it and unbelievable how perfect the story fit and how everything matched with only about 2 degrees of separation between everybody, whether it was a helicopter pilot or it was the crazy housewife. Some of the stars, Robert Downey Jr., Jennifer Jason Leigh, Andie MacDowell, Julianne Moore, Tim Robbins, Lily Tomlin, Jack Lemmon. As John said, there's lots of behind-the-scenes footage in the Blu-ray, which came out last October, but all kinds of different interviews, behind-the-scenes information, updated music score. And one of the funny things, there was a piece of trivia, one of the funny things was Jennifer Jason Leigh actually worked as a phone sex operator for a while to make sure she got the part down. So while she was doing this, she was taking calls at a phone sex line in L.A.
Remember when it was phone sex lines?
She said that she actually was reading the logs and came across some prominent names from Hollywood and some directors that she knew personally, but she kept to herself. Jennifer Beals was supposed to be in the film, but her character was cut in post-production. And so Shortcuts, it's a great
So
film.
you can see why Criterion picked this to be in the collection. It's a great emblematic Bob Altman film.
They say and they say it's one of the 100 movies of all time you should see on various lists. Whoever they are. And then of course there's always new releases, and this one to me sounds like the type of new release you would have. For me, I'd put it on for a happy hour with people over on the weekend. It's called Festival. And it's about the Newport Folk Festival, which has grown over the years, and it's a documentary which includes footage from back in the early 60s, and with Joan Baez, Johnny Cash, Judy Collins, Peter, Paul and Mary, Pete Seeger, Bob Dylan, and so forth. And so it's some great live music performances on Festival.
Well, and you could imagine that they've got great pristine footage, and concert footage from that period of time would be pretty amazing to watch.
It'd be a lot of fun. So be sure to head over to Deep Discount through focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo. We like to say watch what you want to watch when you want to watch it. There's always great prices there, and I would argue some of the best prices you'll ever find for any sort of media needs you're looking for. Right, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
So it's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We're going to take a quick break. As John mentioned at the top of the hour, we're going to do our segment called The Random Sample, where John and I have curated LGBT news from around the U.S. and sometimes the world. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is, and what did you have?
Crispy rice. Dark.
Crispy rice. All right, and said with a mouthful.
Like a crackle.
It is a crackle. All right, FocusGroupRadio.com is where you need to go to find everything about the show, all our platforms, and you can click on the Deep Discount logo and visit our partner there as well. Random sample time, and the first story that I would like to discuss comes from a newspaper called the Charlotte Observer, and it's actually an opinion piece written by a woman named Beth Monahan. And I was fascinated by it because the headline reads, "One company was missing from Charlotte's Pride Parade, and I'm still upset about it." And so she writes, "My son and I have a recurring debate about who really runs this country, business or politics. We're each firm in our belief that there's valid justification for both schools of thought. But at Charlotte's Pride Parade last month, not only did I feel overwhelming pride for our LGBTQ community, I also felt a strong sense of pride for our business community. It might be apparent which side I pull for in our debate. I found myself beaming as each float came down Trade Street, seeing all the logos, T-shirts, and employees proudly supporting their company's stance on diversity and inclusion. I felt lucky to be a part of an afternoon perfected by acceptance and love. In my experience, business has always led this thinking. Now, Tim and I would actually agree with this in many regards. We think business has always been the vanguard. I grew up in North Carolina in the 60s and 70s. It wasn't my parents, my church, or my school that first opened my eyes to discrimination based on gender, race, or sexuality. It was my employer during the 80s who first encouraged progressive thinking through a training session focused on cultural sensitivity and bias awareness. While our Charlotte business community might not be perfect, its leadership and insistence on diversity and inclusion is unwavering. When HB2, now do you remember HB2?
Yeah.
It was the bathroom bill in North Carolina, attempted to undermine our city's commitment to equal rights. Many businesses took a stand against hateful and unsubstantiated rhetoric emanating from Raleigh. Unfortunately, this disconnected piece of legislation cost our city and state millions of dollars as employees and employers remain steadfast in their support of the LGBTQ community. And then she says, we could have watched an undoubtedly beautiful PayPal float make its way down Trade Street as part of the parade. More importantly, we could have had an initial and minimum 400 new jobs in Charlotte and millions of dollars in new tax revenue in our community from PayPal, a $9 billion company. Revenue that could have gone to fixing our upward mobility problem, creating a much more positive impact in our community than HB2. Now, her son is gay and he's a Democrat. She's a Republican. But she said, perhaps the duality of our thinking is at the root of the debate. Maybe the best answer will come when business and politics work together. So I just thought it was an interesting piece. I liked the editorial, and here she is. She's a mother of a gay son. She's Republican. She's Republican in what I used to think of as Republican, small government, low, whatever that might be. But she's admitting that HB2 thing cost the state a lot, and I think it's going to continue costing them for companies that didn't do anything or relocated or said, hey, we're not doing business in North Carolina.
Would you live in a state like that?
I know that a lot of our listeners live in North Carolina. I used to vacation down in the Outer Banks when I was a kid. It's a beautiful state. I think some people don't have a choice. I think maybe your company relocates you. Or that's where they're based or something.
Well, that's where you're from.
But if you look at all these states, it's usually the urban area has one thought process and voting pattern, and then the exoburbs and the rural areas have a different one, and that's the disconnect to me.
That's when I lived in Oregon. It was like that. There was the city of Portland, and then it was everything else. I mean, Eugene and a few little pockets, but I'm sure it's the same way there. There's Charlotte, and then there's
everything else. So that was the first one. What's your first random sample?
My first one was a headline. This came from the Dallas Voice, and the headline is 49ers assistant coach Katie, I think it's Sowers, Sowers. I tried to look it up on YouTube, and I couldn't find Wers, Sowers.
Sowers, yeah, I'd go with that.
She publicly came out to become the NFL's first openly LGBT coach. So she's an assistant coach. She came out last Tuesday. She became the very first openly LGBT coach in the NFL, not only in the NFL, but for all of men's sports.
She's fascinating, and she's a woman, too.
She's a woman. She's 31 years old. She's the second woman to have a full-time coaching job after Catherine Smith, who was on the Buffalo Bills. But Katie is the very first LGBT open person. The other woman wasn't. Her quote was, she said, there are so many people who identify as LGBT in the NFL, as in any business, and they just don't feel comfortable being who they are in public or talking about their sexual orientation. She said, the more we can create an environment that welcomes all types of people, no matter their race, gender, or sexual orientation, religion, the more we can help ease the burden that many of us go through every day. She played women's football when she got out of college. She went to Goshen College in Indiana and then got her degree, advanced degree at the University of Central Missouri. And then she worked for she played for the Women's Football Alliance. And then she started doing scouting for the Atlanta Falcons. And she met San Jose coach Kyle Shanahan, who ended up being the head coach at the 49ers, and liked the work that he saw her do for the Falcons and brought her in. And she said she was a little leery at first. She didn't know about doing it, but she did. She said it's been the best thing that ever happened to her. She said that while she had some fear about coming out prior to starting with the Falcons, she found that the NFL has been more accepting than many people would even believe. She said her orientation first came up when she met with somebody named Scott Pioli, who was the assistant GM for the Falcons prior to her internship. And she said she was very nervous about telling him, and she said, but issues about family kept coming up, or relationships, and she finally said, you know what, I'm just going to say it. And she said she's very happy she did. She said, I could not have asked for a more open-minded and accepting group of people that I work with. I never once felt judged, and I've been treated like just anyone else, and that's what I wanted. She said, so it's she's looking forward and excited to build her career. But it's interesting because I know actually more women that watch and love NFL and football actually now than I do men.
I was going to ask you, do you think she came from a football family?
You know, I'm sure
maybe she had like 3 brothers, or and she got to like watch and learn and
that's a good question, because I actually did try to. Obviously, nobody knows; she's not a household name. But I tried to Google her, and I found her LinkedIn profile, and I tried to see if I could surmise more information about her. And because I thought the same thing, maybe her dad was a coach at the local high school, or maybe her brothers.
Well, coaching in general
football.
fascinates me, and I because you're basically doing 2 things, right? You're coaching for the team to win, but you're also working to get the best out of each individual athlete.
Right, and you're a mentor, and you're molding these kids. And a lot of these professional athletes, they talk about this in a lot of the sports, particularly the big professional sports. You've got these young kids, because they are kids, that are making an inordinate amount of money, but it's very limited. So you might have a 10-year career, you might have a 5-year career, and you have all these millions of dollars, and so many of them end up broke at 32 years old with
lack of discipline, lack of financial knowledge or education. Yeah.
So you also become, I know that's a big thing within professional sports now, is trying to find people that can help them with their finances, knowing that you're not going to be making $20 million every 5 years for the rest of your life. Yeah. So what's your
that's a good one. My second one's a super fast one. It's pictures, because it's from Instagram. I got this off QWERTY, and I love cartoons, puppets, and dolls. And if I see a photographer take a doll and pose it and take a picture, like a Ken doll or a Barbie doll, to me it's hysterical. So this guy called LA Basics wickedly parodies basic guys from LA with this Instagram. So he takes these Ken dolls, and he says they kind of are a riff on all these LA boys that do these things. So the first one, they put up a picture here. So there's a guy that looks like he's in his underwear. There's a bedroom set behind him, and the caption reads, "Finally getting some acting gigs. Just got recruited to shoot a scene down in San Diego. Can't say much except it pays really well." So for those not in the know,
an acting gig.
The big porn website Sean Cody's based in San Diego, and I'm sure that's where that guy was going. So the next one, what we have up there, which is Happy birthday, Queen Bey. I guess it's Beyonce. We baked you a cake, and then in parentheses, obviously, none of us is eating this. Isn't that so true?
They showed that cake I saw on another website. It was atrocious, I thought.
This thing?
Yeah. I mean, it actually looks better than the one the baker
This is such a riff on, like, I would say Abby, the LA scene, and also Fire Island Pines. And then we put another one in there.
Obviously, none of them are going to eat it.
Yeah, exactly. This one's funny. He says, "What happened to monogamy? I just want a white picket fence and an upstanding guy who doesn't mind if I do an occasional line of coke." But it's a riff on all these guys that post to Instagram with all the sponsor tags. And the last one is what gives it all away, because it says, another month, another box. It's like Loot Crate or something. This is like, what does it say?
Underwear.
Doug's wear. No other undies I'd rather take pictures of myself and enter my code for a 20% discount off your first order. So I just thought this was hysterical, the little miniature
Have you
sets.
fell prey to one of those? I did on Instagram. I didn't know.
Did you really fall prey?
Then I realized this guy has a different pair of underwear on every day. And that's the whole shtick. And you get a I didn't buy any, though.
So that is so far removed from uplifting stories about lesbian coaches or someone missing a PayPal float.
My number 2 comes from the Seattle Gay News, and the headline was, "White Christians are now a minority in the USA."
I had read this.
I didn't believe this, but then I started reading more. And then the subhead was, "LGBT people and Washingtonians are particularly irreligious." So they said white Christians, once a dominant ethno-religious group in this country, now make up less than half the population. So they said this is the dramatic conclusion of a new study by the Public Religion Research Institute, according to the latest data that was just released on September 6th. They said only 43% of Americans identify as white Christian. Now, so this is different. What I was trying to figure out is, would you say you're religiously affiliated?
No.
Would you say you're Christian?
Well, I was raised as a Catholic.
And you were baptized probably.
Yeah, and I was an altar boy.
I was baptized Methodist and raised a Christian.
So if you had to put me into a bucket, I'd say I was Christian, because Catholicism is a Christian faith.
And but that's how that's my fault with this a little bit was, and this was where I thought it was kind of, the headline was a little misleading. And I don't know what the answer is. And because I asked myself, would we consider ourselves Christian, you and I? Would we say we were Christian? Because if we just said, well, I believe in something, or I'm not religiously affiliated, then you don't count. And that's what they're talking about, people that are devout.
Oh, yeah, I see where you're going. Yeah.
So in other words, if you went to, if your mom said to you, John, we're going to go to midnight mass at Christmas, you probably go with your mom to midnight mass. Sure. But would you say that you are a churchgoer? And
yeah, I'd be pretty rigid on that and say I'm not practicing a faith. So then I don't know if I would.
So that's where this number comes in, and that's what I thought was interesting about this. So they said the trend away from religious identification is especially marked among the LGBT people. Only 46% of Americans who identify as LGBT are religiously affiliated. It's the highest of any group. 46% of Americans who identify as LGBT say they have no religious affiliation at all. Washington is one of the least religious states, and they ranked the least religious states in order for the top 5. Do you have to guess which the most unreligious state is?
I want to say Nevada, but I'm not sure.
It's Vermont.
With that great maple syrup.
41% say they have no religious affiliation. Vermont. Followed by Oregon at 36%, Washington 35%, Hawaii 34%, and Colorado and New Hampshire at 33%.
Wow.
The most religiously diverse state is New York, and the most homogenous is Mississippi, where 60% of the people are Protestant and most of them are Baptist. Mm-hmm. So that was the most like. But they said today only 17% of Americans identify as evangelical Protestants, and that when you look at Democrats or Republicans, obviously the Republican political spectrum has a lot more people that are religiously affiliated. They said that that only 27% of the country would fall maybe where we are atheist or agnostic.
Yeah, and I'm even loath to use some of those terms, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, so exactly. they said there are 27% of the people who say they're agnostic or atheist, and then Jewish Americans only constitute 2% of the population. Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus are only 1%, and all other non-Christian religions are less than 1%.
Wow, that statistic's worth mentioning a few times because we all are up in arms over 2%.
Yeah. Usually, I always thought the Jewish population was 6%, but
what was it, Ron Reagan?
These are religious affiliated.
Ron Reagan Jr. do that ad. I'm
unabashedly atheist,
and I don't care if I'm going to hell or something.
I'm going. Yeah. What was your third one?
Third one is from India. It's a sad story about a trans woman that was attacked by four men. It happened in Hyderabad, India, and it was on a Hindu festival called Ganesh Visarjan. And she was simply going to her home, and these four guys set upon her and asked her to go with them somewhere else. She refused, tried to get in, and then a friend found her later in a pool of blood with her throat slashed. And the story kind of it's a horrible story to begin with, but it's made worse by the fact that she was denied medical treatment at a number of facilities before she was actually treated at the National Institute of Medical Sciences, which is a university hospital.
Why do they say she was denied treatment?
The article implies that it was because she was transgendered, and and India has this the anti-homosexual. All right, so did you know that India has a law? It currently bans any form of sex that is not a man and a woman in a missionary position. Now, I don't know how often they enforce that law and how many homes they break into to see how you're having sex.
Not enough considering it's overpopulated.
Yeah, but they're clearly using it to attack the LGBT community in India. So eventually so on the right hand there, those are the stitches. She did receive medical care. She's doing okay now. But what a horrible thing. And I only picked this one as an example of, well, it's like this, as bad as you think it may be here, while we deal with our rights being chipped away on a monthly or daily basis, it could be a lot worse. Yeah. And I don't mean it, but I'm not set upon at the front of my apartment building by 4 people and left with a pool of blood.
No, there's we certainly have our faults in this country, but there's a lot of places that are a hell of a lot worse than what we go through.
And to be gay in, that's that one. So hopefully she'll make a full recovery. And what a strange thing for the hospitals not to give care. I mean, what happened to the Hippocratic Oath? Do no harm, right? Well, anyway. Your last one.
On that happy note, do you have gay face?
I've read about this.
So every once in a while these studies come out. So my third one, this came actually from the BBC, and Richard had sent this to me. It says a facial recognition experiment that claims to be able to distinguish between gay and heterosexual people has sparked a row between its creators and 2 leading LGBT rights groups. So GLAAD and HRC are furious with this report. This just came out last week, and they said that this is junk science and it's been out before, and it really hurts people and it adheres to a different standard of beauty. And so both the HRC and GLAAD have said that this is just junk science, yet the 2 researchers that did this said that they're accusing in passing judgment, they said is premature. They said, our findings could be wrong. However, scientific findings can only be debunked by scientific data and replication, right? Not by well-meaning lawyers and communications officers lacking scientific training. So what they've done is they took 14,000 people, 14,000 white Americans, and that's where they said some of this.
And this was a database of like driver license?
No, they went to dating sites.
Dating sites.
Where people were identified as straight or gay.
Fascinating.
So they took 14,000 images, put them through an algorithm, and they said they used between 1 and 5 of each person's pictures, and then took their self-reported sexuality and then put this all in this algorithm on software. They said the resulting software appeared to be able to distinguish gay people between heterosexual people, men and women.
Is there a percentage of accuracy?
Yeah. They said in one test, the algorithm was presented with 2 photos, one of a gay man, one of a heterosexual man, and over 80% of the time it was correct. It picked the gay man or the straight man.
So the computer developed gaydar.
With women, that's exactly what I said. The women, it was 71% correct. They said gay faces tend to be gender atypical. Gay men have narrower jaws and longer noses. Lesbians have larger jaws than their straight counterparts. The software, they said, did not perform well in some situations where they had 930 heterosexual men and 70 gay men, and it asked them to pick the 100 most likely to be gay. It said it missed 23 of them. I didn't think that was too bad.
Wow.
So they went on to say, again, as I said, GLAAD and HRC said this was junk science, and they said these things have come out before, these sort of software programs. And I said it's kind of like gaydar. So I pulled some pictures.
And I saw the deck. Okay.
So these were just random. Even if you take away John's and my look there, but I typed in gay face in Google. Now, this is funny. So there's Jared. Now this is all alleged. So there's Jared Kushner. Does he have gay face?
I don't think he does, but certainly Michelle.
There's Marcus Bachman's husband. There's Ted Haggard, the preacher.
Oh,
That's gay face, don't you think?
That's gay face 101, yeah.
And then I forget who I did on the right.
Larry Craig is below.
There's Tom Cruise.
Rumors about him.
Is that gay face?
No, he's just got action star face, but...
Okay, then over we have Larry Craig on the far left.
I am not gay.
I'm not gay.
I never have been gay.
I don't know. Is that gay face? Gay old man face? I don't know.
No, that's just creepy senator doing something in the bathroom that he shouldn't have been doing.
Right, the congressperson from, I think it's Illinois, Aaron Schock, who is under a criminal indictment for misappropriating funds in Congress, who, they said the last 12 responses to the FBI keeps bringing up sexuality and saying he's not gay. He keeps fighting he's not gay. The outfit on the left, I don't know, is that P-Town with the checkered shirt and the turquoise belt?
That was some fabulous party down south, and I guess he got complimented on the turquoise belt.
And then there's Hugh Jackman. Jackman, I mean. I don't know if that's gay face. And so then I Googled gay women face or lesbian face, and I got a group of photos.
You got
Rosie and Oprah were the first 2 that popped up, allegedly. Katie Lang.
Katie, okay.
I remember my mother watching a Katie Lang concert and asking who that little young boy was. Queen Latifah.
Ellen
DeGeneres.
You got
then
Martina.
Martina. There was always rumors
How
about
did Madonna pop
Madonna.
in there?
They just pop in, sing, like Oprah pop in.
You just Googled it and you got
gay lesbian face.
Rachel Maddow.
And then I thought Caitlyn was
Caitlyn Jenner, yeah.
Allegedly.
Interesting.
So I don't know. Can you think people have gay face? I think like gay feet. People have gay feet. You look at someone in their flip flops.
That's such a great question, Tim, because
Do you guys in the booth think people have gay face? We got John, Garrett, and Allie. Do you guys think people have gay face?
I do.
Do you? Do John and I have
don't know
gay
if
face?
it's true, but I feel like I can look at someone and guess if they're gay.
I don't know. I think it's
that might be more than face, though. That might be the whole
stick?
the whole package, I think.
Whole gestalt?
Yeah. I think it's just a term you use, but I think really it takes more than the face.
Yeah, it's the behavior.
Yeah.
How's your gaydar, Allie?
I agree with John. I mean, if a guy, gay guys are so hot, so usually you see them, you're like, okay, that's not happening for me, but.
Someone's taken way too good care of themselves to be straight.
Do.
That's
they
usually
smell amazing.
That has changed, though. The number of guys that are more the metrosexual kind of thing, where they're well groomed, they take care of their bodies, and you're like, well, okay, that's a good one.
So that was our random sample. So we've got, as we promised at the top of the show, we're going to go through 4 things you should think about regarding this Equifax hack. And we talked about it a little bit with Don from Alabama, but John and I are going to run through them quick. So these are 4 things that you should consider in regards to this Equifax hack. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Now back to the focus group with Tim and John.
Because he has a lot of chutzpah.
An entertaining look at the world of business.
Heads are spinning, heads are spinning.
Listen, laugh, and learn.
I am not gay. I never have been gay.
That's my voice.
Welcome back to the focus group. Thank you, Larry Craig. I am not gay.
You got gay face.
I did this last week on the show, and I laughed my ass off watching, Larry Craig flapping gums. I'm not gay. You got caught. Stop it. Your mother would have yelled at you. Yeah, you got caught. Stop lying. All right. As we said at the top of the hour, and thank you, Don, for calling in to talk to us about this as well. And in fact, I'll use Don as a reference here and say that he already mentioned that he's been hit by
which is scary.
Fraudulent cards that are where people are trying to set up accounts in his name or use his background information to set up credit stuff. So here's the Equifax thing in a nutshell. That company really effed up big time, and since they control a lot of our lives, along with the 2 other nice folks at Experian and TransUnion, I'm amazed that they haven't taken greater steps to all put us at ease. But the truth is they can't. So here's what you need to think about with Equifax. Assume that your Social Security number has been around and floating around for quite some time now, maybe even beyond the Equifax hack. I would actually say just assume your information's been compromised. Go to the site. Equifax has a site set up. You plug in your last 6 digits of your Social Security number. You only need 2 more or something to get the whole number. It will tell you like we think it's been compromised. Did you get that?
Well, there's 143 million that were, so
half of America,
half the country,
44%, basically.
The other half are kids.
And so mine said, I think you have been doing it. And so first thing you need to know is if your Social Security number has been compromised, that's going to lead to other things down the road. That could be fraudulent returns filed in your name for an IRS refund. That could be someone trying to take a mortgage out or a car loan. This goes beyond credit cards, by the way. So I would say, as Don was suggesting, spend the 10 or 20 bucks to lock down your credit report. You could do that at all 3 agencies, and what you basically do is call up and say, freeze my credit report. If you have no need to get a new credit card right now and you're not applying for a loan or a car loan or a mortgage, you lock it down. Once it's locked down, in order for someone to access your credit report, you have to provide them with a four number code, a PIN code. To unlock it, they do the research, then they lock it again. What did you have there?
So that was actually, if we did these in order, so that was the second one, was the consider the credit freeze. The first one was to set up a fraud alert. And this is what you should do anyway, regardless of what happened with Equifax. And essentially, it's with the 3 credit unions, and they'll alert you if somebody is trying to access your information. And it's wise to set this up for your credit cards and your debit cards, and with your bank, so that if somebody does try to access your information, there's a fraud alert, and they let you know. Number 2 was the one John said about the freeze.
Tim, on the fraud alert.
Yeah.
Did you and I have been paying attention to this for a couple of days now. I read that if you set up a fraud alert on one company, it applies to all 3. Is that true?
It should, but I know recently when I just did going to get a mortgage, they only checked with two of the services, and had maybe I set it at the other one. I don't know. So I think it's just to be safe. You should go with all 3.
So set up a fraud alert.
Then so what was the third one?
Check your credit report. Annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com gives you a free credit report from any one of the 3 agencies you choose once every 4 or 6 months. I think you can't do it more than once or twice in a year. I just did mine through TransUnion. It looks exactly like it should. They actually have on a section you really want to pay attention to on a credit report when you pull it is who has asked for your information, and you'll see a list of banks and or companies that have pulled your report. Mine looked all like, Volkswagen when we leased the car or whatever. Like, everything looked perfectly normal.
They say that the interesting thing about this, which I learned, was that you're allowed the free one a year, but you're allowed a free one from each of the services, reporting services.
I didn't know that.
So what they said is spread it out. So that way you're checking all year long. So you get one from Experian, then wait 4 months, and get one from TransUnion, then wait 4 months, and get one from.
Thank you. I didn't realize that. That's great.
From Equifax.
So that is a great recommendation. In fact, why don't you make it every 4 months? Or
it says experts advise spreading these out over the year, checking in about once every 4 months, because you're allowed one free credit report from all 3 major reporting agencies. So why not? So don't get them all at once. Just spread them out.
And then the last one is credit monitoring, and Equifax is offering a credit monitoring program now for free for 1 year. And when it's no longer free, these things are not cheap. They're like $17 a month, and Tim. There you go. Tim put a bunch of the Equifax has one. True Credit, Identity Guard is a big one. There's one called LifeLock. There's a bunch of ones, and the LifeLock one actually tries to protect your Social Security number.
Brian from AdMark swears by that one.
LifeLock?
Yeah.
So the sad, as I said at the top of this little segment, the sad truth of the matter is you need to assume that you've already been compromised. Even if the Equifax site says you're fine, just assume that your information's out there and people are going to try to use it. But Tim and I at lunch talked about this in an interesting way. I don't have a lot of credit cards. I only use my debit card and one card. And so unusual activity, I would notice it very quickly, except for that fact about someone pulling a report or trying to open an account in your name. So me personally, I would go and do fraud alert and freeze the report and then get my free reports and call it a day. Because what are you going to take steps like this? Or?
Yeah, because I've gone to Target recently, or a few, if you go to Macy's or some of these big department stores, they'll actually tell you, would you like to use your Macy's card or do you want to use your Target card? And you say no. Oh, well, you can sign up right now and save 10%. Banana Republic, J.Crew, whatever it is. And if you have someone's ID, why not? Yeah, I'll open one up. And then that's why I was joking with you. Victoria's Secret's famous for it. I only say that because that's where Brian got screwed with somebody opening up accounts there.
Tim told me at lunch that a friend of ours had his identity compromised, and it is not easy to get over. In fact, how long ago was that?
3 or 4 years ago.
It's still going on, right?
And we don't have time to take the call, although I think Don is saying that you lose your right to sue if you use Equifax, and Equifax is
They've rescinded that because some clever person read that and said, wait a minute, if you make me sign up for this credit thing, so they're still, class action suits proceed as planned.
Yeah, and they even, Lester Holt even talked about that last night on Nightly News, that that's not going to pertain to this, so you're not going to give up your rights. But that was initially what came out. And people mentioned that on our Facebook as well. So, but anyway, check your credit. October is Credit
Awareness Month.
Credit Awareness Month anyway. So as we get towards October, it's a good time to do a financial checkup. We've been talking about that since we've been on the air for the last 8 or 9 years. So it's a good time to do that. Hey, we want to thank you for joining us today. We know you have other things you can do during the day, but if you're sneaking us at work, we appreciate it. Or if you're watching us
Love it if you're sneaking us at work.
In a time shift on Saturdays or any other time it's convenient, we appreciate you supporting us, as well as we do with our sponsors. Deep Discount, be sure to head over to focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo, and have a lot of fun. Watch what you want to watch, when you want to watch it. There's a lot of great sales going on, and Criterion is the featured group of movies and DVDs and Blu-rays all this month, I believe. And Volkswagen, our partner here in the focus group. John and I, in a couple of weeks, will be doing a live show from the Out and Equal conference down in Philadelphia with our partners from Volkswagen, and we're looking forward to that. If you're in the market for a new car, check out everything Volkswagen has to offer at VW.com. Remember to arrive alive. Don't text and drive.
Very nicely
right?
done. Yes, Garrett gives you a gold star. No, Garrett's shaking his head.
Wait, what did I do?
Don't text and drive, arrive alive.
Don't text and drive, arrive alive. Don't text and drive.
I am so glad we have Garrett in the booth keeping us honest. Thank you.
Have a good week, everybody.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM satellite radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.